Welcome back, students. I'm so glad you could join me. This video is on figurative language, and we are going to go over a few different forms of figurative language. Not all of them, but quite a few. We are going to go over similes, metaphors, personification, and imagery. Yep, that's what we're going over. Okay, so first of all, figurative language is language that is not literal. It is meant to add color to writing. So it is not to be taken literally or at its, at its word, okay? So it is not literal, and it's to give some color to writing. Now, similes. That is figurative language where the author is comparing two things using like or as, okay? You have to look for those keywords of like or as, okay? That's very important to figuring out if it is a simile, because there's something quite similar, which is a metaphor, which does compare two things, but it makes a more straight up comparison, okay? It makes a more straight up comparison. It doesn't use like or as, okay? So if you're reading something and you're seeing figurative language and you're trying to determine whether it's a simile or a metaphor, see if there's like or as, or see if it's a more straight up comparison, okay? Then we have personification, okay? Personification is when an author gives either human qualities or characteristics or emotions to something that is not human. That can be an object, like this whiteboard. Yes, I'm just as classy in video as I am in the classroom. So it can be an object like a whiteboard, or it can also be an animal. Anything that isn't human. And it's making that thing have the qualities, the characteristics, the emotions of a human being, even though it's not. We also have imagery. That is using vivid description and details to paint a picture in the reader's mind of what you are talking about, okay? That is imagery. And the reader gets a really clear picture of what is being described or discussed in the writing, okay? Now you may be asking, why would an author use language like this? And I know we discussed it earlier this year in class, but that's a really good question to review. And the why is, well, there are a few different whys. It makes the writing more interesting. It makes it more interesting for someone to read if it is more descriptive, or if it has this more flowery language that is intriguing and thought-provoking. It makes it more understandable. Now, yes, it is hard to figure out the figurative language. That does take some analysis, which is the topic of another video, but it helps you understand things on another level once you do, rather than just saying this whiteboard is purple. If I was to use figurative language to describe the shade of purple or how the whiteboard felt in my hands, you would get a more well-rounded idea of what I was discussing. And the whiteboard is not the best example because it's kind of a boring object. But let's say a pool. If I described a pool using figurative language, that would be a more in-depth description of what maybe that pool looked or felt like than just saying the blue pool was cold. That's boring. It's also true because it is, but it's boring. But if I maybe use a simile or metaphor to compare the shade of blue to something else, or the level of cold to the Arctic, which is kind of where it's at right now, you would get a better sense of what I'm talking about. Okay, and the last reason is, again, it gives the writing just more depth, more sophistication, and just makes it better. It just gives it another level to the writing. So that recap of figurative language, I'm going to hold this up one more time in case you wanted to take a screenshot or anything else like that. And I will have another video later about how you go about analyzing figurative language and all that. Okay, thank you for watching.